What's up, my YouTube bros? I'm your host, the one, the only, the RJB0. Welcome to Casual Friday, as hosted by Ron Burgundy. This is just a temporary thing, don't worry about it. I was just kind of shaving, and I decided to leave a mustache for a day. It's going away. Fear not. I'm not going to look like a creeper for the rest of my life. Anyway, let's get down to some Q&A. I haven't done this in a while, so I should have a lot of good questions to answer for you. We start with Yami Yugi, who asks, what's your opinion on Merlin, and do you think it has the potential to make Noble Knights Tier 1? My problem with Merlin is that it supports the old Noble Knight strategy, and the existence of the Monarch Stormforth basically means that the old Noble Knight strategy is dead. It's gone. You cannot viably use the old Noble Knight strategy of creating an unbreakable board with noble arms and the Sacred King. I think the Noble Knights need to take on an entirely new strategy when it comes to playing the game, because of the existence of the Monarch Stormforth, which allows players to tribute your Sacred King for like a Vanity's Fiend or a Majesty's Fiend, and then you can't use it to summon the monster from the graveyard. It's just like, it's really bad for the deck that the Monarch Stormforth exists, which means that the deck needs to go in a completely new direction, and I frankly do not think that Merlin is catered to doing that. Final chapter, or last chapter, whatever it is, May. But it's going to be really interesting to see how Noble Knight players change around the deck in order to make it function more in the current format. From Banished for 2 turns, do you think Ghost Tricks could become a thing again when the TCG gets Dork Lord? And he specifies not for her win condition. I don't think Dork Lord is actually that amazing in any way. Her stats are not particularly impressive, and she adds a Ghost Trick spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, but I can't think of a Ghost Trick spell or trap card that really makes a huge difference in the game right now. Like, the only one I remember ever being a problem for me was Ghost Trick Scare, and Ghost Trick Scare really doesn't do a huge amount this format, so I can't see her doing anything particularly impressive for the Ghost Trick archetype. The Hermit says, poor you, Belle voice actress, and he quotes me, can you sign my junk, please? Because I was talking about how I have a junk warrior signed by the person who played, voice acted you, Belle. So it was kind of funny that, can you sign my junk? Oh, jeez. From Geranium Battle, hey, the RJB0, do you have a favorite subgenre of science fiction, such as humorous or short stories? And what are your favorite authors? Do you have any recommended titles? This is a great question because I love sci-fi. I am a huge sci-fi nerd. I'm really into the classic social science fiction. We're talking like Ray Bradbury, George Orwell stuff, but I have recently been trying to get into space operas. I've been checking out the Nebula Awards, which is the yearly award, I believe, for the best space opera book. And those seem like they're really great, except I've only tried to read one so far, and I keep losing the darn book. So I've kind of given up on that. So I'm really into social science fiction. Ray Bradbury has a really great set of short stories called I Sing the Body Electric that I have sitting under my pillow. I think I've had it there for a couple of years, and every once in a while I just read a short story from it. It's a great book. Basically anything by those two I will read. I'm getting into some more modern stuff because my Aunt Judith is actually a science fiction book writer. And she's really good at it, so I'm trying to branch into some more modern authors because I understand that just because the other authors I like are classic doesn't mean that they're necessarily better than new authors. So I'm going to be checking out some new some new stuff, but the book that I've been trying to read, the space opera that I was trying to read since you asked for recommended titles, is called 2312, and it's super great. So I would check that out, and I am interested to see, since you said that you might have some recommendations of your own, what you would recommend for me to read next. From OJ the Black, which archetypes would you like to see get new support? That's a tough one. There are a couple ones I like. Windups are already getting new support. It would be nice if Thunder Family got a card that allowed them to be a little faster than they are, because they can build up just a ton of advantage, but they really can't deal with their opponent's turn a lot of the time. I wish that Thunder Family got a decently sized Thunder exclusive like Light Thunder Xyz monster, rank 4 Xyz monster that can negate opponent's monster effects. That's what I really want to see. Or negate summons. Either of those two things would be great. So that would be a nice thing to see for Thunder family. It would be nice to see Scraps get some more support. I really like the mechanic of Scraps, and I don't think Scrap Factory did what it needed to do for the deck. So those are kind of the archetypes I would like to see get more support. From Sam Friedman, what do you think is the most powerful card in the game in terms of ease of summoning, power, searchability, and other stuff? Honestly, like, I've been talking about this with friends. Lonefire Blossom in concept is kind of the best card ever made in Yu-Gi-Oh! We've been talking about it in talking about Monster League format, which is the current Battle Pack format is Monster League format, which says that all monsters are all types, and we decided that if we were to try and do a, like, Highlander Monster League format, we would have to ban Lonefire Blossom, because Lonefire Blossom in concept is a ridiculously powerful card. You just sack a card of Lonefire Blossom's type to special summon any monster from your deck of Lonefire Blossom's type. So we were testing this around. We would, like, sack Lonefire to summon Red MD, and then you'd use Red MD to bring back Lonefire, and then you'd use Lonefire to summon Zombie Master from your deck, and then you'd use the Zombie Master to send a Mizuki from your hand to the grave to summon the Lonefire from your grave. The Lonefire could summon, like, frickin' anything you want, like Master Hyperion, I don't know, you can choose whatever you want your last boss monster to be, and then you can Mizuki your Lonefire Blossom back to use it again. Yeah, in concept, Lonefire Blossom is the stupidest card ever made, but because it's set to the plant type, which rarely gets, like, extremely powerful cards that operate on their own, it hasn't done the really crazy things that it could potentially do. Now, Gigavice was kind of an example of how ridiculously good Lonefire Blossom could be, but the Gigaplant needing to be either, used with Supervise or having to be normal summoned again kind of makes that less powerful than it could be. So, like, conceptually, Lonefire Blossom is probably the best. Another card that I would say is really freaking amazing is Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear. I actually made a video not too long ago about how Bear is the best card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Bear just does so much. He has the potential to go +3, because if you add him with Tenki, and then you destroy a monster with Tenki, so that's a +1 right there. Then you run over a monster with the bear, which is a +2 because you destroyed the monster for free with the bear effect, and then you ran it over for free. And then you get a +3 because if you deal damage at that point, then you can add another Tenki from your deck to your field. It's a ridiculously good card. Other than that, I'd say, like, it's tough to determine what the best cards are. I can tell you what the best cards are in theory, but not actually in practice. From Necros013, this is actually a really great question. What qualities does a deck have to be tier 1? I think that a deck has to do unfair things. There are a lot of, like, good decks that are really solid out there that do good things, but they can't compete because in order for a deck to be tier 1, it has to do unfair things. It has to have a source of advantage, it has to have an engine, and it has to have a win condition. Like, the reason Ghost Tricks never took off was because they didn't have a win condition. Even though they could create incredible amounts of advantage, they couldn't really do anything with that advantage. So it has to have a win condition, it has to have an engine, and it has to not be terribly inconsistent. It has to have just a large variety of ways that cards can interact, so if your hand is not the ideal hand, your deck is still going to function. I think those are the 3 qualities that a deck has to have in order to be tier 1. Necros also asks, what are your thoughts on mixing archetypes like Hat, and can you think of any other decks that were just thrown together and as good? Well, Debris Hime was a just thrown together deck that was ridiculously good. The same goes for Dino Rabbit. There are a ton of decks out there that are engines splashed together. It's become less common recently because archetypes are becoming better, basically. They're becoming more streamlined than these kind of conglomerate decks, which makes them more consistent and more fast and generally better. But every once in a while you get something like Hat that's so incredible in the way that the cards interact together that it is a shoo-in for tier 1. From Will Stallman, another fun question. Do you play any instruments? I used to play violin. I've been considering getting it out for a while. I played classical violin for like 7 years, and then I gave up on it and decided to start fiddling. And then I stopped fiddling because I just didn't have the time. I also sing, so that's That's what I do. From Slushy FTK, another fun question. Do you watch Legend of Korra, and if so, what do you like and dislike about it? I love Legend of Korra. I am absolutely loving this series. I still, of course, think that the original Avatar: The Last Airbender series was better, but, you know, whatever. I really like that the relationships are substantially more, like, geared toward like my age of audience, the like later teens, instead of like kids. Like, even though Avatar: The Last Airbender was like, it was incredible and like anybody of any age can get something out of watching that show, the kinds of relationships and things that people were working through were really geared toward a younger crowd. But I like that Legend of Korra. I also like it's really great in just gender equality. Once again, me getting on my like flamin' liberal soapbox here. I really like the feminism aspect of it, which is super cool. I freaking love Asami. Asami is like my favorite character ever. The fact that she's just ridiculously smart, and she has this really cool head about her. I love all the characters, and of course, it's the Avatar series, which means the bending and the fight scenes and all of that is really cool. I like that they're incorporating the spirit realm. I don't, what's it called? I think it's... Anyway, so it's really cool. I freaking love Legend of Korra. Things I dislike about it, sometimes the dialogue could be better, I think, occasionally, but in general, I just really... I think it's incredibly well thought out. From Anthony Jipov, or Antony Jipov, do you plan on doing any subscriber deck analysis / editing like you used to? Yes, I am considering bringing back my subscriber deck workshops. I've had a subscriber recently send me a deck that they wanted me to workshop, and I'm thinking that I might bring it back just to be able to workshop that deck, and then if it's popular enough, then I will bring back subscriber deck workshops. From WeKing Matitude24, that's quite a name. What do you do with your rare or common junk warriors? I've only ever had one common junk warrior, and I think I traded it to a kid who really wanted it. From Gene Salgado, do you think some of the Neckcloth ritual monsters will be limited when they come out, like what happened with Gust Kraken? Well, Gust Kraken actually had a few months before Konami realized that its hand loop is too good, so they had to limit it. But the Neckcloth ritual monsters, I don't think they're going to limit like immediately. It's again that Konami is, with the exception kind of 3-Axis Fire Fist, which had just set Total Flame to the OCG, so Konami didn't want to have that happen to the TCG and lose a ton of money on other archetypes. Like, with that exception, and Neckcloths aren't nearly that good, I don't think Konami is ever going to pre-hit any more sets. From Robert Lopez, of all the archetypes coming out in the next 2 sets, which is your favorite? I don't know, I'm pretty big on Cliffwarts. I really like the lore behind Cliffwarts. I think that's super cool. And I also think they look really cool, and I think their playstyle is really interesting and something we've never seen before in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because pendulums, basically didn't exist until very recently, and nobody had found a way to make them work until the Cliffwart archetype came out. So I'm actually really excited for Cliffwarts. I think they're super cool, but I still think the Burning Abyss is hands down the best deck going into the next format. From Angel 4 Donger, or Donger? One of these days you're going to have to tell me how to pronounce that name. Will you be doing more Judge Gripes anytime soon? Yes! Yes! I will be doing a Judge Gripe this Tuesday because I have a particularly obnoxious Judge Gripe that I have to take out on you guys. Virus of War asks, what's your opinion on the new Hermit Yokai archetype that's coming out with the Neckcloths? I'm not particularly impressed by them. I really like the idea of a mechanic centering around bouncing cards back to hand. That's why I liked the idea of the Mist Valley archetype. But my issue with it is, in order for it to function, like, you have to have very specific combinations of cards in your hand, and like your combos don't interact with each other. Like, you have a bunch of combos, but none of the cards from the combos can interact with the other parts of the combos. It's also nice that it can create Chidori really easily, but in a format like this one, that is not nearly enough to be competitive. From Mark Furness. Hi, I would like to know if you play Dev Pro or Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, and if so, what is your username? So I used to use Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, but I got incredibly frustrated with it. Partially because the system, it kept crashing on me, and partially because its rating system is awful, so I never actually got to play against meta decks a lot of the time that I was testing. So I felt like I wasn't getting any value out of it. So I play on Dueling Network, and yes, sometimes Dueling Network can be annoying, and sometimes you do get worse players on Dueling Network, but honestly, the majority of the time, I would much rather play on Dueling Network just because I'm more likely to face against a relevant deck. From Alex Bell, how the hell did you find Divine Sword Phoenix Blades? I've been looking around since you posted the initial video about Shadowblade Turbo and haven't found one. I don't know, Nick still hasn't found all of his. I guess you have to go on eBay or something. And finally, from Ninja Neos the Fourth, what do you think about heroes for the next format? I think they're doing well in the OCG, but they also have the Star Seraphs in the OCG, so it's going to be difficult to tell. I think Darklaw is really good. I think Dark Mist or Shadow Mist is really good. I think that if they found ways to abuse those two things properly and use Mask Charge, I think that the deck could be a serious contender because it can do unfair things in the form of a walking floodgate card. So I think that heroes have the potential to be really good. It just all comes down to finding the right variants. So that's Casual Friday for this week. This Monday, I have a discussion coming your way. Tuesday, I have a Judge Gripe. Wednesday, I have a Chain Beat deck. And Thursday, I will have something ridiculous because I've decided that Thursdays is the ridiculous days. And then Friday I'll have another Casual Friday. If you want me to answer a question for you during that Casual Friday, let me know in the comment section below. And of course, subscribe for more decks, discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, the one, the only, the RJB0, and stay classy, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players.